These are very interesting times for the auto industry and market. The pandemic is far from over and it's still playing havoc. There are shortages all around, waiting periods are going up, and so are car prices. Now, this scenario presents a good opportunity for the pre-owned car market. And the time to buy a pre-owned car couldn't be better. Or is it? Pre-owned cars are a hot topic, and that's what we're going to talk about in today's panel discussion brought to you by OLX Autos and all of us at Autocar India. Now, we have a very eminent panel, which I'd like to introduce. We have Hardeep Brar, the Vice President and Head of Sales and Marketing at Kia India. He'll be giving us the OEM perspective. We have Amit Kumar, the CEO of OLX Autos, who are heavily invested in the pre-owned car space. Hemal Thakkar, the Director of CRISIL, is also on the panel. Now, CRISIL have just done a recent used car study, so he's going to give us some insights on that. And representing the dealer fraternity, we have Vinkesh Gulati, the President of FADA. Gentlemen, thanks very much for joining us. Hardeep, I'd like to start with you with the OEM perspective. Just wanted your thoughts on the pre-owned car markets, and its importance to manufacturers.
So first of all, thank you, everyone. It's nice to be, discussing this topic, and we all know this is going to be a very exciting area going forward. So if you look at the scenario today, what I understand is the used car market is about 1.4 times the new car market. And come 2025, this is projected to be almost 2 times of the new car market. So there's a tremendous potential that we can see in this area. But currently the challenges are many. Currently the supply of used car market is a big concern. So when there is a concern on the supplies of the new cars, even people hold on to their cars which they want to exchange, and hence I think it has kind of impacted the supply side of the used car. And maybe Amit can throw more light because you're sitting right there in the market. This is, I also feel, has kind of given a impetus to the pricing of the used cars. It has actually gone up, I would say, anywhere between 5 to 10% versus what it was earlier. So that is also kind of, and when a used car buyer goes and he sees the prices on a higher side, I think there's a bit of a concern. So I think the situation today that we are seeing is not the real situation. So I think good times ahead. Currently, the situation is not very clear at this point in time. And from Kia side, we are planning to also get into a used car market because we don't have the car park which is available to come back to us. Very, very preliminary times, but come 2022, when our cars will turn about 3 years, I think that's the right time to start, especially in the bigger towns. So that's how we are looking at this market.
Looking at residual values from an OEM perspective, because that must be a very important thing to control.
Yeah. I would say 3 factors. 2 of them you mentioned. One is as the new prices of the new cars go up, it also has a direct impact on the prices of the used car. That is number 1. Second, the availability of a new car in the market also pulls up when you have a waiting of anywhere between 3 to 5 months. It definitely impacts the overall pricing of the used car, and which is why probably we have the best residual value in the marketplace. And third is about the product. I think when people look at the product called Seltos or Sonnet, the kind of features that we are providing, the design language of the car, I think people are loving it and they are willing to pay the price, and which is more higher than the market price. So I think these are the 3 factors put together, which is really giving us a very good impetus on the resale of both Sonnet and Seltos.
Right. Thanks for that, Hardeep. Amit, turning to you, it's an interesting time. You've really gone into you've invested heavily in the pre-owned space. You've gone from a classified to a listings platform, now straight into transaction. Very, very interesting times, to be jumping into the space. So just wanted to get, what the initial reaction has been as you have really gone whole hog, into the transaction model.
Thanks for that, Hormazd. I think when we take a view of the market, we take a longer term view of the market. And then as Hardeep was talking about this ratio of new car to used car expected to go to, I think by 2030, 2031, we are looking at a market which is going to be around 10 million used cars transacted on an annual basis. And if you put a $5,000 kind of an ASP, then you are looking at a $50 billion plus kind of a market. And then as an organization, we sort of take a longer term view of the market. And we actually started reasonably before COVID, which has had a few semi-permanent and a couple of permanent changes in the way the car as an asset is utilized. So I think from a longer term point of view, this is a fantastic industry growing at least around 14-15% CAGR longer term. So the right space to get into. From the perspective of digitization, I think if you look at a used car, and if you think about a car seller, there are some real clear pain points that the car seller has. What is the value of my asset? Am I selling it to the right person? Will the paper transfer happen? Will I get my money in time? And I think as an organization and as an industry, our attempt should be to solve all these pain points so that the used car transaction, either buy or sell, takes away all the pain points. And the journey of taking away all these pain points involves digitizing the value chain. Transforming a physical car into an inspection report which can be seen by multiple buyers in itself takes the friction away.
So Hemal, turning to you, digitization, I mean, how much it's really pushed growth. And just to understand, do you think this is going to be the fundamental driver of driving the used car market, or is it, or are the dynamics also going to be very interlinked with the new car market, which it typically is? There are model life cycles which have an impact on used car demand, prices, supply, all that sort of thing.
So as you know, Hardeep alluded to earlier that today we are looking at this to be 1.4 times, the new car market. So the study that we did for OLX definitely states that, this market is going to be almost like almost 0.7 to 0.8 times, almost like 1.7 to 1.8 times the new car market, by fiscal 26. And as Amit also alluded to is that, it may probably become, a market of almost 10 million units by fiscal 30. So, the pace at which it is growing is going to be humongous. And yes, online is going to be one key parameter or one key mode or channel, which is definitely going to push this. But we also need to understand that today, when we look at the overall mix of sales, as per our understanding, it's very evenly poised. There is almost 25 to 30% of the market which is still based out of your metro cities, but the remaining 70% still comes from tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities. So which also means that the so-called erstwhile OEM backed dealerships will play a strong role and would continue to do so. And people somewhere at the back of their mind also have this thought process that if I buy a vehicle from somewhere, and in case, if the vehicle goes bad, if I have access to infrastructure like a workshop or a garage, it gives me much more comfort. And for that mindset to change may take some time. But yes, this is something which will definitely get, the growth will definitely get pushed by online marketplace for sure, in the near term at least.
Right. And with that, just leads neatly into Vinkesh. Vinkesh, you've heard, what our other panelists have said, but, clearly from your point of view as dealers, your take on used cars. I mean, to be honest, you would like to sell more new cars. The whole used car market is a way of getting trade-ins. It's more brick and mortar. I don't know how digitization is really helping the business. So just your thoughts on this.
One thing is 100% clear, Hormazd, it is a growing industry and nobody can stop it. It's growing. But what is benefiting us dealers is nobody is able to take the pie what dealers were getting. So even all the digital aggregators coming in, it is not eating our share. But I should thank people like Amit, OLX Auto, who are helping us to increase our share. Because we were fighting with people who were playing with used car, with the changing of kilometers, changing of engines, changing of parts, whatever. There were a lot of. So similar year car, if I was selling a Scorpio 2017 at 6 lakh, you could have easily got it at 4.5 in the market because it has been, I'll not say refabricated, it has been rechanged the vehicle. So a lot of things happen. And there are some, if you pick some, there are around 50 odds registration numbers, which are famous for all this. So as a dealer, we know all around what happens. So I'm thankful to all these digital aggregators and specifically to OLX Auto because they are publicizing also well that at least the non-organized market, which dealers were not able to cater now, is coming into an organized forum. No doubt it's not coming to us, but it's actually coming to an organized player where these kind of activities are behind us. So in India, since ages, we have seen that we always fought with a broker who was non-ethical, non-legal. Now it's easy to fight with OLX. It's very difficult to fight with a non-ethical broker. But if I get a car and a customer comes in, I got a price of at OLX so much, I know I can easily compete because if OLX is giving this price, I'll get a better price with me because I'm not selling digitally, I'm selling physically. So the customer knows me, the kind of confidence he'll have on me, he cannot have that confidence on a computer. Obviously, Amit is not there always in front of every customer. So that benefit a dealer has.
And Amit, turning to you, obviously, on the transparency bit on your platform, that's something you can offer. But, Hardeep also raised some interesting points that, to give a new car experience even to a used car buyer. Now, how would you do that? Because, the OEMs can afford to give some bit of extended warranty if you're buying it through their used car channel, service packages, all that sort of thing, and even the whole retail experience, so to speak, when buying that. I mean, is this something that, for, let's say, a tech platform like yours, how would you approach this, which you're also going into a bit of brick and mortar retail as well?
Yeah, I think the experience will have to be calibrated to the new car experience, because eventually, if I think about the material importance of a car purchase, I would say the most difficult or most material decisions that Indians make, the number one is buying a house, second one is probably getting married, and the third one is buying a car. Right. So it's a very, very important and material occasion and decision in the lives of our consumers. And there are customer expectations which need to be calibrated and met. And here, I think while you sort of bucket things into digital or physical, my perspective is that this is more phygital, and that's the way this world is going to evolve. We as pure play digital platform have made a move to get into retail, and we are present where our customer wants us to be. Pre-COVID, most of our customers would walk into our retail stores. Today, when a customer wants to sell his or her car, most of the inspection of the car actually happens at the customer's home, because that's where the preference shift has happened. The customer wants us to be going to their home and actually doing the inspection and then probably picking up the car, where the paperwork is all digitized, other than few mandatory legislations. Right? I think we would need to get out of this physical versus digital and make it phygital. That's, I would say, a systemic shift that all of us would have to go through. I think from pure experience mapping perspectives, used cars would need the support of warranties. Used cars would need the support of ownership of RC transfer, the buying source, the place from which, or the origin of the car. We would need to provide maintenance packages. And as platforms, we have had to create partners who are helping us do that. And we are increasing our footprint as we expand into different cities of the country. I think experience perspective, the customer also understands that this is not a new car purchase. So I think while a 50% of a new car experience may not be delight, but a 70 or 80% of a new car experience, of course, worth it. And the customer, Indian customer, is of course the value for money customer and understands that. And we are seeing that as we sort of grow and mature into becoming better.
Hardeep, just any your thoughts or anything you want to add, because clearly, I think an online transfer, as Vinkesh said, seems to be one way of really debottlenecking the kind of potential for used car. Just again, it's all down to the making it as painless as possible. Because I think what's the common thread coming out of here is buying a used car. There's a lot of pain and hassle in it, and probably that's why some people, even for the same budget, buy a new car because they don't face that issue. And we'll come to what a used versus new car buyer is after this. But, just your thoughts again on the whole issue from a regulatory standpoint, in buying a used car. And, not just for the customer, but even for OEMs, for their business.
See, it will be a very good step if the registration can happen in multiple states, but given the level of connectivity which the states have within themselves, that remains a big question, because I don't know whether they can access each other's data. So the authenticity of data is one big point which they need to look at. Number two, if you look at the registration rates are very different. If you go to Bangalore, the registration rate is 16%. When you come to some states in North, there is anywhere between 8 to 10%. So the new car registration rates are very different. I think one thing which can help some of the states is that if you bought the car in state A and you want to register in state B, maybe the charges could be slightly higher, so that the state where it is getting registered also feels happier to get more revenue from a state car of another state. Simultaneously, it is convenient for a consumer as well. Because if he is, let's say, bought his car in Delhi and wants to sell it in Mumbai, currently it can be a big hassle, but with these additional costs, he may be willing to pay a little more cost and sell it in Mumbai. So it is win-win both for the state as well as for the customers. But I think while this could be a wish list, and to really make it materialize can take much longer time. But definitely, if we have these regulations and we have one country for the used car market, it could be a big booster overall.
Hemal, I just want to know if your study said anything you want to add to that in terms of, especially the fact that selling pan India is not easy, transferring pan India is not easy, rather a lot of interstate bottlenecks, and again, interest rates being quite high for PM. It's traditionally been like that, and I think we know why it is like that, but I don't know if there's any chance that would come down.
No. So if you ask me, you're absolutely right. There are various documentation requirements. There is a NOC receipt that you need. RC transfer, too many things and very, very complicated. So of course, something like PH coming in will definitely help. And what Hardeep also mentioned is extremely important. But I feel the online marketplace will definitely play a huge role, because if there is a price discovery mechanism and the risk perception of that product comes down, I am sure the spread between the rate at which a new car is being sold and the rate at which a used car is being sold will come down. So, the delta should come down once the risk perception goes down. And, we are slowly, gradually moving towards it. In fact, we are seeing a few banks taking, the first plunge, a few private sector banks, where we are seeing, maybe a 2 to 3% delta between a new car and a used car sale, which is very good, which a couple of years ago used to be in the range of 5 to 8%, is now, somewhere in the range of 2 to 3%. But if you look at NBFCs, the delta still continues to be high. But as we see this market progressing, in the more organized, manner, or towards the more organized way of doing things, I'm sure, this is going to only get better. And the financing is something which will definitely push, because as per our assessment with OLX also, we understand that, it's almost at about 1/3 or a little less than 1/3 of total sales, which are being financed today, in comparison to almost like 85 to 90% of finance penetration in new cars.
Right. And, Amit, just want to turn to you. I mean, how does OLX manage interstate registrations? I know, digital platforms are seamless in the way they work, but these are kind of, the set of physical bits which are, become a bit of a challenge.
I think we are responsible to our customer in terms of the way RC transfers happen, and we take this very seriously. And for that, we've had to put in field teams in at least almost all the states where we have large throughputs. So these field teams are eventually interacting with the RTOs and getting things done, because the RC transfer process at the very last leg or last mile is a physical process. There is a Form 29 and Form 30, which is a physical document. Rest all our process is digitized. It needs to be submitted, signed, sealed, etc. And we also get it done physically. So that's how we manage it. I think to the previous point that Hemal was making about financing, I think one big challenge that the banks are facing today in financing is their ability to assess value of the car. There is a big degree of uncertainty on how much is the value of the car, and there we help our consumers and some of the business partners in getting the right assessment of that car, and that increases the total financed value of the car, again acting as an enabler in increasing the financing penetration.
Right. We are running out of time, so I think we just have time for one more round of questions. An interesting question, a very nuanced question is, who is the used car buyer today? How does he differ from the new car buyer? Has it changed rapidly? Are they obviously they're more open to buying a used car? There's a lot more choice right now. I mean, if you ask me, BS6 was one kind of, let's say, a big attraction for buying used cars, because a lot of diesels got killed instantly, and there are very good lot of diesels out there, BS4 diesels, which make for a very good pre-owned car. So, Vinkesh, starting with you, you kind of press the skin of the customer on a daily basis. It's a physical. How does the used car buyer differ from the new car buyer? I mean, just want some nuances on that. I mean, is he a deal seeker, or is he someone who's more status oriented? He wants a bigger, flashier car at a lower price. So, just to get your thoughts on that.
So much, very important question, and very frankly, it's very difficult to analyze a used car buyer. A customer who comes to book for a vehicle and he's not able to get a vehicle in 6 months, he becomes a used car buyer. Even if he has booked a top model of 20 lakh, he may go and buy a 5 lakh, 6 lakh car to just manage another year, and then after a year buy a new car. So today you can really not identify. So at times when I talk to my team member, I say 25% of sale loss is actually used car buyer. Because if he has come to buy a new vehicle, he came in your showroom. He was interested in buying car, but he couldn't buy. It could be many reasons. He didn't have that money.
It could just be he's hanging on to his existing car also. So he's not a buyer at all, rather than being a used car buyer. So that is
why how much 25%, not 100%.
Okay.
So I'm saying only the quarter of people who are coming in and not buying a car. Obviously, I'm not talking of sales loss to competitor or co-dealer. I'm saying who didn't buy anything from a new. Out of those 25% buy a car because they see car is a very, very image booster purchase. It's not like a shirt. If I have thought over that I want to buy a car, even not buying a car will be difficult for me to even see the eyes of my family, immediate family. I'm not talking about the neighbors and all. I cannot go back to my mother, my wife, my son and say that I'm not buying a car because I don't have fund. I may give some reason and buy some other thing. I'm okay. I went to buy a Seltos. I couldn't find the Seltos. I got something else. I'll buy it. That's okay. So 25% of whatever we lose customers who don't buy anything is a used car buyer. Additionally, I feel as of today, the kind of price increase what we have seen for the past 2 years, that is also where we are losing new car sales to used car sales.
But even the used car prices are going up correspondingly, aren't they, Vinkesh?
Not that much. So if I check off BS4 price of a diesel vehicle or a petrol vehicle and today's price, you may get a price difference of around 15 to 20%. But the same model used car price may have jacked up by 5% or 7%. It is not 20% plus. So that's the benefit. And there has been regular changes in the RTO rates or something. That also doesn't affect the used car buyer. No doubt, the shortage does affect. So if a product has a big waiting period, the resale price goes up, obviously. But so overall, and additional one more thing, whenever the new car sale has degrown because of whatever reason, shortage of product or demand less, you will find used car sales going up. So this is a phenomena, and at the dealership level, we see that. As of today, we are fighting for the replacement vehicle. I don't know how OLX is managing,
Right.
but if I had a dealership, I was doing some 25 vehicles used car retail every month. Today, we are doing what, 15, 16. So
Right.
so that's a scenario, I feel.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure procurement is a whole different topic, which must be challenging for you all. But I want to just stick to the, as I said, we're short of time, can't just cover everything. I just want to stick to the old and new car buyer. Amit, data you've got, Hemal, you all also must have done some research. Vinkesh says it's very difficult to kind of box him in or stereotype him. A new car and used car can, they can flip interchange between one or the other. But do you think there's a certain mindset of a used car buyer which is slightly different from a new car buyer? Amit.
Yeah. I think I would sort of classify the used car buyer of today in three broad categories. Right. The first one would be, let's say, the upwardly mobile of today. Right. This is somebody who's getting promoted every couple of years, and somebody who wants his or her car to reflect her status, and has shed the inhibitions of buying a used car. I think this is the typical new India, which doesn't differentiate between the old and the new. And as we sort of discussed in our study also, 45% of the used car buyer is the first time buyer. The second one, I would say, is the value seeker. This is somebody who just is the one who's looking at the difference between how much is the new car similar model cost, how much is the used car 3-year, 5-year model cost, doing that calculation, doing that mathematics, and then saying, okay, this is 30% cheaper, let me go for it. The third one is, I would say, more short to medium term and more tactical, which is somebody who hasn't been able to get hands on a new car, and hence taking that 1-year, 2-year call because of the needs that today people who used to do shared mobility earlier but need to get their own car. These are the people who are migrating to used car temporarily, and hopefully once they get this experience would continue with it. So I would say these three broad categories are those of a used car buyer.
Thanks, Amit. Hemal, very quickly to you. We are trying to keep this as tight as possible. Anything to add to that?
No, nothing to add. Just one thing is that if you ask me, what I also feel, lot many people who would want to buy the car for the first time, they would ideally want to buy a used car, get their hands, through it, become a pro at driving, and then probably migrate to a, new car.
Thanks for that, Hardeep. I'll give you the last word. I mean, obviously, you're still new in the game. Your vehicles haven't really kind of, percolated down into the used car market. But do you think there could be a situation where, used Seltos versus new Sonnet? Obviously, people want to upgrade to a bigger, flashier car, but don't have the budget for it. I mean, is it fair to say that's what really the, used car buyer fundamentally is? Though Amit did put it into three different classified buckets.
Yeah, of course. I think that's one of the categories where you want a bigger car, a bigger bang for the buck that you have. And this is where I also see the smaller category of vehicles which are about less than 5 to 6 lakhs, all the hatchbacks, and that I also feel is one of the reasons why the hatchback and the smaller sedans are shrinking, where SUVs are taking the cake away. These customers, I think they are looking at bigger cars, so you will get a big size SUV for maybe 6 lakh rupees, wherein you will get a small hatchback. So I think in terms of aspirations, these people go for bigger car, and they don't have this stigma attached to it that I'm buying a used car. I think that stigma, especially in metros, is over. Maybe smaller towns, it's still. In fact, I think it is. All across, I can see, the stigma is getting, it's moving away.
No, thanks for that. I mean, Hardeep, you raised a really very interesting point, and I think clearly we know that the hatchback and the sedan segment, is under pressure. But I think the point you made, that competition is actually coming from the used car segment, really makes a lot of sense, because everyone who wants their first car wants it to be as aspirational as possible. They want to flaunt it, and clearly they are on a budget. So obviously they would look at a more, let's say, a prestigious let's say a vehicle with more image than just the hatchbacks and sedans, which are lower down in the pecking order. But really, it's been a fantastic discussion. I think clearly what's clear is that, the Indian consumer is fast evolving, the car buyer, but fundamentally, he is someone who seeks value at the heart of it. That's what we all do. That's in our DNA. And clearly exciting times for the pre-owned car market. And thanks everyone for joining us and for your time. And thanks again. Thank you.